Rowley to be followed by Jamie Hepburn.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. When I came into the chamber today, I had read the briefs, and I then got a hold of the sheet and read this motion. And I have to say that the motion isn't about trying to build some kind of unity in terms of a way forward, in terms of welfare in Scotland. This motion put forward by Nicola Sturgeon is simply an attempt to try and win some yes votes as we move towards the referendum. And I see that Nicola Sturgeon has rejoined us, but I would have to say that our policy seems to be where there is harmony, then we will create discord, we will create division, and we will try and win votes from that as we move forward. When I think of the welfare state, I tend to think of Beveridge, that Liberal
too many private conversations. Can we have Mr. Rowley,
Beveridge,
please?
And you know, his attempt, or the paper that he brought forward at that time to tackle want, idleness, ignorance, disease and squalor, the five great evils, as he called them at that time. And I'm sure, I would say to Liam MacArthur, that I'm sure that today William Beveridge would turn on his grave if he sees what these reforms are actually doing in terms of the way that they're impacting on people, not just in Scotland but across the UK. I recently visited the Benarte food bank, which is part of the Dunfermline food bank, and I noted there that out of the 2,373 vouchers that had been issued since April 2010 to July 2014, the largest amount of them, 613 benefit changes, 710 benefit delays. The Tussle Trust does not count sanctions as such. And then you go down and there's refusal of crisis loans. So these are major factors in driving people into absolute poverty, where the very basic right and need that everyone has in this country to be able to feed themselves and eat is being denied. What I would say to the Tories and to the Liberals is that you need to come out of denial. We have these food banks, we have major problems in our communities, and we need to examine why that is, stop being in denial that the problem exists, and start to look at how we can mitigate these issues that are there, so that something that's unacceptable for the whole of Scotland, or the whole of the UK indeed, is that people are having to rely on charity to feed themselves. When I also think about the welfare state, I think about Clement Attlee and the Attlee government of 45 that brought about the creation of the welfare state, and I think of that great Welshman and political hero, Nye Bevan, who brought about the creation of the National Health Service. The National Health Service, one of the greatest social creations of that century, and indeed into this century. And they recognised that by pooling and sharing the resources of 60-odd million people across the United Kingdom, we could build a welfare state, we could build a health service that would be the envy of the world. And that's why the answer to the current issues that we have is not narrow nationalism that wants to create disharmony and put people against each other. It is about continuing to work to share the resources across the United Kingdom, so that people in any part of the United Kingdom will work together when people are in difficulties in any part of the United Kingdom. But my view would be very much that we have to be tough on poverty and tough on the causes of poverty. If we look at being tough on poverty itself, and I think the Oxfam briefing that was sent out earlier highlights Clydebank Independent Resource Centre, where they supported clients to claim over £3.5 million in 2013-14 in monies that was not being claimed. And my criticism, in a sense, one of the areas of the Scottish Government is that they are not working with local authorities, working with organisations across Scotland, so that we can be tough on poverty. I saw Nicola Sturgeon on the television the other night, and I thought she was announcing a new £500,000 for food banks. I discovered the following day that it was the same £500,000 that had been announced previously. It was just saying how the money was to be spent. And I know that I think £10,000 of that money was coming to Fife. But we need to work with the local authorities and work at the local local level to ensure that we're maximising how we actually are tough on poverty. In terms of some of the policies, and I would have to say again, the SNP government have a terrible record over the last 7 years in terms of trying to tackle inequality. I will pitch the Labour government record either in the UK or in Scotland against that record any time and any place. In Scotland, 200,000 children lifted out of poverty, half in pension of poverty. These are all achievements under a Labour government. If we look at the SNP record in tackling inequality, they should indeed certainly have nothing to be proud of. But in terms of being tough on the causes of poverty, they've even less to be proud of. If we look at the cuts in colleges, we need to look at full employment. I have said time and time again that throughout the history of the Labour movement, the Jarrow Marchers, the UC, work in the Upper Clyde, ship workers, none of these people marched for benefits. They marched for jobs, and our objective should be full employment, giving people the opportunities, being more ambitious for young people in a life on benefits, getting them the training, the skills and the jobs so that they can have a prosperous future. Again, the SNP have failed and failed drastically.